about those Uyghurs being organized to go to Syria, right? So
Yes.
I want to go back to that. This is
No
going to be
problem.
repeated because Syrian war started to get serious in 2012, and
Yes.
because the Turkistan Islamic Party is a very close Al Qaeda affiliate, they also start to recruit Uyghurs to go to Syria. Uh, but at the time, China sealed down, locked down the border around Xinjiang after 2009 Rumchi riot, so they couldn't
Mm.
leave, like to Pakistan or
Not
Central
that same
Asia.
route. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is China. All they have to do is hop on a train. Several hours later, they're in the other parts of China. And as I mentioned to you before, even in 2019, the border in Yunnan, in southwestern China, is
And
pretty
Burma.
pretty
So I
open.
mean,
It's pretty
yeah.
open, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of Uyghurs were just taking the train from Xinjiang to Yunnan, and then from Yunnan they would go to Southeast Asia. Why? Because the Turkish government under Erdogan they had a deal with the Malaysian government, basically for all the Uyghurs who come to the Malaysian Turkish consulate. The Turkish consulate was giving them Turkish passport, allowed them to fly to Turkey, and
Really.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And then so they all they have to do just to make their way to Kuala Lumpur, Turkish consulate. So a lot of the Uyghurs then they were going from Yunnan, crossing the border illegally into Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar,
Uh-huh.
going to Thailand, Cambodia, making their way to Kuala Lumpur. And there's actually a report on this finally on Western media by Jerry Shi from Associated Press, I think in 2017, about so when these Uyghurs arrive in Turkey, once they land in Istanbul, their Turkish passport get taken away, and they're greeted at the airport by jihadi recruiters who encourage them to go to Syria. And
Wow. Okay.
as a
And this was
result,
the policy in 2012, from 2012 onwards, pretty much, more or
yeah,
less.
yeah. So as a result, right now there are thousands of Uyghur fighters in Syria. They're based in this in the northern northwest part of Idlib province of Syria. They took over a whole town, Jisr al-Shugor. Now that whole town is controlled by the Uyghur fighter. In fact, the Turkistan Islamic Party, they're considered one of the toughest fighters of of Al Qaeda. They're
Mm.
I see various estimates. Some say thousand, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 fighters, but
Uh-huh.
together with their because they also brought their families.
Mm.
I saw a report by Arab journalist Jenna. She said she has contact with the Syrian opposition. They went into the Idlib and did some filming. The estimate from her sources was all together with their families. There's anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 Uyghurs with their families. So
Mm.
5,000
Mm.
fighters, but but together with
20,000.
family, yeah,
Yeah.
with their families, there could be anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000, and they're mostly in they took over the Syrian town of Al Shugor, kind of Al
Mm.
Qaeda in Syria, kind of give them as like their reward to set up there, and
Their
and
own autonomous region.
yeah, their own autonomous region in Syria, and for people who are interested, you can Google articles from 2015, 14, and 2014, 2014 and 2015. You will find a store. Google for like Uyghur refugees, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. You will see a lot of stories about these Uyghur refugees being detained for illegally crossing the border, and there was a big fight diplomatically between government of China and United States because government of China wants them to be repatriated to China because some of them are wanted for their role in the 2009 Urumqi riot. But
Mm.
United States want these people to go forward to Turkey. And
Mm.
And for the there's even a instance in 2014 where one Uyghur man got detained on the China-Vietnamese border. He took the gun from the Vietnamese border guard and started shooting. There was a incident. Yeah, you can Google that. It's all there. It's all out there in the open. It's all reported. And then like government like Vietnam and Cambodia, because they're friendly with China, so they just repatriate these Uyghurs back to China. But Thailand is a special case because Thailand is friendly with China, but also Thai military has a very close tie with United States. So Thailand government was facing pressure from both sides. So the Thai government decided to do Solomon's justice. They said, okay, the women and children get to go to Turkey. The men get to send back to China. And that sparked off a huge protest in Istanbul, in Turkey. And in fact, during that protest, a South Korean a woman tourist got attacked because they thought she's Chinese. And the Turkish ultra-nationalist party, MHP, which organized the protest, was questioned over the incident. And the chairman of NHP said, well, it's not our fault that they all have like slanty eyes.
Oh my gosh! Oh God! Okay.
This was all like reported, and then follow that up. There was a bombing in Bangkok in 2015, so people can look that up too.
Yes.
2015 Bangkok bombing in August. When they bomb a Buddhist shrine that's visited by a lot of Chinese tourists. When they first caught the suspect, with Turkish passport, and the guy claimed he's a Turkish citizen. But until the Chinese government produced documentation, it's like no, he's actually a Uyghur from Xinjiang. And when he was arrested, and when they raided his apartment in Bangkok, they found a whole room full of Turkish passport, quote unquote fake Turkish passport.
Right.
But and like even in Indonesia, where I'm right now, there was 4 Uyghurs were caught trying to join the Mujahideen groups in the jungles in Indonesia, and they also got caught with Turkish passport. You can also Google that up. Uyghurs in Indonesia, and they were caught with Turkish passport. Again, they try to claim they're Turkish citizens, and it turns out they're Uyghurs from China. They were serving their sentence in Indonesia. I think recently there's also a debate now because now their sentence is up in Indonesia. Now there's also like a Chinese government want them to be repatriated, and the United States don't want them to be repatriated. There's still that fight going on. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the picture you're painting is. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. I think the last question I actually asked was about the Mujahideen in the 1980s. But I think everyone will agree, probably who's listened to this, is that you are very good at you sort of self-propelled in a sense that you're describing everything, and the amount of information is excellent, and the detail and again the links.
Let me just get to the last incident in the
Sure. No, I'm not finished yet.
That's what I'm going to get to because
go ahead.
So around 2014, when China realized there was a problem with the Uyghur exodus to go to Syria, they also started to crack down the southern borders along Yunnan and Guangxi area. And that's when all those Western journalists around that time, they were posting picture of these Chinese posters. They say, oh, these Chinese are so racist because the poster were saying, oh, reporting the people who are illegally crossing the border, but with like depiction of someone who looked like a Uyghur, Central Asian. So they're like, oh, these Chinese are so racist. But what Chinese government were trying to do at that time was trying to stop these Uyghurs trying to go to Syria to join to fight in the jihad. But after the crackdown, there was a group of 8 Uyghurs who were kind of stuck in Yunnan because they were in Kunming, but they couldn't get out of China because the border restriction. So they decided among themselves that they were just going to wage jihad locally. And they took knives to the Kunming train station on March 1st. and they start just randomly slashing, stabbing people. 30 people died. 30 people died and more injured. This was a major because before a lot of the terrorist incidents happened mostly in Xinjiang, right? And you know, there was that incident happening in Tiananmen Square, but you know, Chinese government didn't make a big deal about it. But in the Kunming train station, this is happened in 2014. Also, like time of cell phones, like people were posting footages on Chinese social media, on Weibo. You know, everybody find out, and that was a very big shock, because also Yunnan is kind of known as this like happy place, right? Like over everybody get along, and yeah, so that I think that's another watershed moment. One watershed moment was 2009 Urumqi riot. Another one was 2014 Kunming train station attack, because now like for a lot of the Chinese people outside of Xinjiang, they realize, oh, this is not just a Xinjiang issue. This is like this could happen in our city too, and so that So now go ahead with your question.
Sure. I mean, I think I just wanted to say that it seems to me that you know, anyone trying to understand this issue, to say like, sort of what's happened and how did we get here, that there isn't necessarily one track. That it seems to be you've got the fallout of the CIA funded war against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, as well as Saudi Arabia pumping money into that war with Wahhabism and the Mujahideen fundamentalist view, and the madrasas training and radicalizing. So you have that element from all throughout the 1980s into the early 1990s, which has its role in the Xinjiang story. But at the same time, you also have the economic story and the ethnic story. So you have Han Chinese who have family links to the coast, and as market reforms spread across China, they have a foot up or an advantage over the Uyghurs who don't have that link. And then you have an economic disparity, an inequality between the two. And then, as you say, those kinds of things being the sort of tinder to the spark of 2009 with the factory incident, the girl going to the factory and all that kind of stuff. So there isn't particularly one track here that says, okay, this is how we got to where we are. There's a number of contributing factors.
That's why they don't tell you that story in the Western mainstream media, because they prefer a black and white story, right? Like a good versus evil narrative. This is too much nuance and too much context for people. Like, it took us 2 hours to get to where we are. Like
it's taken us that long.
You know, then they have to explain about, you know, the economic issues, the class divide. You know, that's just too much for too much to expect.
Well, it's not consumable, right? It's not easily sellable news, right? Not bite size. But okay, so I mean, again, also there's other elements to it too, which is also you've also brought up earlier, which is along with the Mujahideen war and its influence. You've also got the economic thing I've just explained, and your sort of standard ethnic tensions. Then you also have another more recent element, which is the Turkish and US effort to, you know, play its cards within Syria and using a fundamentalist force to do their dirty work and recruiting them from wherever, but particularly from Uyghur and from the Uyghurs. And I didn't realize that the Turkish passport phenomenon that you explained, that's something I've never heard, which is fascinating. The free passports to fly into Turkey and then become a mujahideen, a new mujahideen 2.0 perhaps. But on top of that, you also then have also just the small thing of Mike Pompeo's 2024 bid and his sort of cherry on the top to sort of throw in there, and which puts us into the future. I mean, it's not an easy topic to cover. This is, as you say, 2 hours to get where we are now. I think, I guess maybe if you wanted to wrap up on the sort of extremism stuff. I know that you've explained. I think I'm glad you mentioned the train station one, because that was a big incident, and it was a film that came out I think last year. I mean, I'm in Beijing. I watched it. Chinese state media released it, and they showed that footage. They showed the guys with the knives in the train stations, which if anyone's seen the footage of the London attacks, when they bring knives out, very much like that. So almost, and again, as you said, these are the same people. These are the guys who went to Syria or planned on going to Syria. So these are the same lone wolf phenomenon you've seen in France, Belgium, across the world.
I mean,
Except
similar attacks like the car running over people in Tiananmen Square. They did that before. They do similar attack in Europe. You know, like
exactly. They say that the same in Nice and the same in Barcelona and in London. A van or a truck or a vehicle using that attack. So okay, I think to be honest, we've covered the terrorism element of this.
Yeah.
And so now it brings us back to two things. And I think obviously I'm sure that you've been speaking for a long time, so I'm trying to give you a bit of a rest, but you've got some water there. There's two things I think we should try and sort of maybe give some sort of a close to this, but no need to rush. So the first thing is of course what is happening in the camps. So I think we've mentioned there's vocational training. It's not genocide. So I think we've already covered that. But I think you mentioned Adrian Zenz, and he says he called it cultural genocide. He says that he used the phrase culture genocide, not genocide, and it's Mark Pompeo who's jumped on that. I just wanted to see, you said you read all of his reports. So what kind of stuff does he detail? And how good? The methodology, I've heard people question his methodology, the numbers, the sample sizes. And not just him. I think you've already mentioned Millward, this professor. How good is the data that backs up these wild claims? And what claims do they actually make?
Okay, so first claim is 1 million Uyghur in camp, right? And now they're claiming up to like 3 million Uyghurs in camp, right? First of all, that's a huge number. There's total of maybe 11, 12 million Uyghurs total in Xinjiang, you know, like even 1 million Uyghurs in camp, that would be like 1 in 10 people, right? And the first report, so all the media boils down to two sources. One source is, which came out earlier than Adrian Zenz in mainstream media, is a one report by China Human Rights Defenders, this Washington-based NGO founded by NED, National Endowment for Democracy. Their report was based on supposedly interviews with 8 Uyghurs from 8 separate villages from rural Kashgar prefecture, and based on the witness testimonies, they did a tabulation. They say, okay, based on the numbers here, if we can extrapolate to the whole population of Xinjiang, right? And that's how they arrive at 1 million. You can find the report online, the China Human Rights Defenders report of 1 million Uyghur in camp. Their methodology was listed. It was based on a testimonial of supposedly 8 people from 8 separate villages.
People.
Yeah,
8 separate villages.
Yeah. So they even said, oh well, like they put a caveat there. It's an extrapolation, right? But it says it's not unreasonable to extrapolate. So they extrapolate from 8 people to 11 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and that's how they come up with a 1 million Uyghur number. So that they're the first to break out in the mainstream media. Right. Second one is Adrian Zenz, who provide kind of the scholarly aura, right? Because Adrian Zenz is a well-respected scholar from the Victim of Communism Foundation, right?
Yeah,
very reputable foundation.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. Not sensationalist at all, and doesn't list Nazi soldiers as victims of communism as well. But
yes.
So he's also quite. He's not exactly. Let's say he's been reported as being an evangelical Christian with a mission, a particular mission.
He said on records that he felt this was mission from God. What he's doing right now about China is his mission from God. He was quoted in the newspapers, and he before he got into this Xinjiang research, his best well-known work is this book called Beyond Rapture. about people can Google that. He talk about spiritual spanking of children and how homosexual will burn in hell, all that great stuff. And
Right.
so
Okay.
his report, I actually read his report as well.
Yes.
His report about 1 million Uyghur in camp was based on so-called leaked document from a Turkish exile organization, Uyghur exile organization based in Turkey, right?
Mm.
Just a side note, this Uyghur exile uh, organization also happened to stand the Turkistan Islamic Party in Syria. You know, they post a lot of a lot of their support for their brothers in Syria all the time. But anyway, so
Okay.
this organization
so,
supposedly
so
provided a
basically
leak,
terrorists, but yeah, okay, yeah,
yeah, they
okay.
provided a leaked document to Adrian Zenz that claimed that in all of Xinjiang there are hundreds of thousands of people being in detention. And then Adrian Zenz, in his report, it's also extrapolation. He also said it's not unreasonable to extrapolate. There could be up to 1 million Uyghurs in camp. So if you actually read the details of the report, it's all extrapolation. But when it's
Uh-huh.
reported in mainstream media, it's reported CNN, BBC,
Fact.
that's been taken as a gospel fact. It's like
Right.
1 million Uyghur now become like undisputed fact. Like everybody
Right.
quoted, right? They say, oh, Adrian Zenz said it in his report. They don't
Right.
provide in the caveat, even those Zenz or
Yeah,
the
they also don't put the detail that Adrian Zenz, the evangelical Christian on a mission to save China, got a report from from a somewhat quasi-terrorist organization in Syria that 8 people and then extrapolated. So okay, yeah. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
yes, the big caveat is not put on that. Okay.
Yeah, but you know there are you know re-education centers and vocation center in Xinjiang, right? And
Hmm.
we don't know the exact numbers of the people who are in, and you know well, according to the Chinese government, you know that their role is to re-educate and then to reintegrate them back into society, and that's why the vocation training was part of their program, because they still believe that they need to because one of the thing that people get influenced by these by these returning mujahideens is that they tell people like you're not don't have anything to do with the Chinese state, don't have anything to do with the communists, right? Because
Hmm.
that will taint you. You know, you will be tainted by association. So
Hmm.
and also for women, they're not allowed to go outside the household. They should be fully covered up. So don't work, and don't participate in any part of the society that Chinese government has a role in it, right?
Hmm.
Because that's atheist, that's communist, that will
Hmm.
taint your soul, right? So there's the program what the Chinese government put in Xinjiang. The goal is kind of reverse that. That's
Hmm.
why they call it re-education center. I mean, I think it's possible that in any kind of a large detention program, there could be possible cases of abuse. I think I can that that just happens in kind of large systematic incarcerations,
Programs.
but I don't
Right.
think been, it's as
Top down.
portrayed in the Western media right now as like equivalent of a Nazi concentration camp, because
Yeah.
the are not the same. That's not the same, and because this is not a program to exterminate Uyghur as a people, right?
Hmm.
It's a program to integrate Uyghurs into the Chinese society, even the ones who have been influenced by radical ideology. And I'm not sure if this is the best way, but then I look at what other countries have done, right? What what Europe has done, what the West has done.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't I'm not convinced. There's I haven't seen a better alternative. Let me
Mm,
put it
mm,
that way,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
Because
mm.
like we have all these radicalized youth from Western Europe who go travel
Mm.
to Syria. right? And all MI6 and all these intelligence agencies are fully aware of these people. These people are being monitored, but they choose to, close one eye and let them travel to Syria. Maybe they thought that it's better than they get out of the country than stay in Europe.
Yeah.
And so now they basically shifted the burden to the people of Syria and Iraq who have to deal with these people. And in fact, we still have camps for ISIS members and ISIS families in northeastern Syria right now. There's a camp called Aho camp in this place called Aho in northeast Syria that's holding 60,000 ISIS family members. Not even ISIS fighters, like the women and children, like the ISIS, right. The wives and their children, because a lot of these European government, they don't want to take them back. They rather these people rot over there in Syria than coming back. And recently there was a diplomatic row between Australia and New Zealand because there was a person who held dual citizenship in Australia and New Zealand who joined ISIS. And Australia went ahead and revoked his Australian citizenship. So now so New Zealand government protested because he felt like, okay, you are just dropping this on my lap. But this is
right.
This is basically the Western government way of dealing with it. They're like, okay, we'll just let them rot in a desert in Syria where we don't hear about them again, And that is their way of dealing with radicalization. I mean, that's their de-radicalization program. Ship them to Syria.
And then just ignore it and pretend it's not your problem. And also make it, as you said, make it Syria and Iraq's problem to deal with the fallout of the radicalized individuals. And but I think that's
also to carry out things that will suit West geopolitical objective, because they wanted to topple.
Well, that's it. Yes, they become pawns in an imperial game. To dislodge Assad or dislodge whichever leader that is in question at the time, whatever needs to be opened up. But I think that's really the I suppose the point of this all is that's what's at the core of the discussion, is that there is perhaps you agree with this, is the fundamentalist problem, the radicalization problem, which I'm sure there's lots of different reasons why people become radicalized, economic, and because of then organizations being formed, etc. That's at the heart of this discussion, which is kind of maybe brushed over by the Western media. That for the Western media, it's far more easier and far convenient just to paint the evil communists oppressing people and throwing out numbers that always go along with communists. A million dead.
I think there's more to that, because now U.S., particularly after Trump administration, is now on an active drive to start Cold War 2.0, basically.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask, actually. So this will be the final topic, actually. Our final point is exactly that, because I was going to mention this, the drive to war on China. I'm sure you've probably heard this phrase going around, John Pilger's documentary on it. Where are we going with all of this? And that includes from what is the West going to do with this, but also what's going to happen to the Uyghurs and what's going to happen in Xinjiang. What do you see? Get your crystal ball out.
Yeah, I mean, I became suspicious when a lot of the Xinjiang reporting suddenly gets tied with call for sanctions, right? Like first, people like Isaac Stonefish was first trying to tie Xinjiang with Huawei, right? Saying, we need to, UK need to ban Huawei because Huawei has business in Xinjiang, and now they're even saying stupid stuff like, do you know that Bitcoin is 60% of the Bitcoin is mined in China, and a lot of that is done in Xinjiang because the electric supply, because the Xinjiang coal mine supplies a lot of electricity that's being used to mine Bitcoin. It's like now like all this is used to kind of drive narrative of forcing the Western company supply chains to move away from China. Because Peter Navarro, who was the Trump's advisor on trade war with China, he was driving this decoupling, right? This is kind of the decoupling from China is a big drive from the U.S. government and U.S. National security establishment, because the U.S. and China economy has been so intertwined in the last 40 years. Some in the Pentagon and in the national security establishment felt that was actually a liability because if we're going to start a confrontation with China, all these economic linkages actually hold us back, right?
Yes.
So we will preempt that we will start decouple from China economically. So we make it easier for us to start a confrontation.
To have war, right? Exactly.
That I feel that's what really driving a lot of this right now, this Xinjiang narratives in media, because there's a lot of calls for first a boycott cotton from Xinjiang, right? And that just got extended to call for boycotting ketchup from Xinjiang. Xinjiang actually produced like a huge major portion of ketchup, of tomatoes to make ketchup that's consumed in the United States. Like a little factoid people probably don't know. So people are now like saying, any business that hire Uyghurs should be boycotted, or like the Western businesses should be a refrain from doing business in Xinjiang, or have any kind of ties with Chinese businesses that have business in Xinjiang. I mean, ultimately come to like, we should just boycott, we should shift our supply chains out of China. We should avoid doing business with Chinese businesses. Again, it kind of ties into this decoupling that has been driving by Pentagon for years. For many decades in United States, there was kind of two camps. There's kind of the pro-engagement camp and pro-containment camp. And pro-containment camp is backed up by, the Pentagon, the CIA, the national intelligence, the military intelligence complex, right? All the US suspects. But the pro-engagement side used to be backed by kind of the U.S. business who were hungering to go exploit the Chinese labor to get inside the Chinese market, right? And so there was a balance for a while. But now we have reached a point where China has developed to a point where some U.S. businesses, especially among the high-tech industry, they now start to see China more as a competitor, right?
Yes.
Than as a market, and particularly I'm talking about like Google, Facebook, and by the way, all these tech companies are fully embedded with the U.S. government, right? And so they are also wanted to drive this kind of decouple from China, because Facebook is already, they don't have China business. Google is they don't have China business. So for them, there's limited downside, and these people are driving agenda now with kind of the pro-engagement side that's been put in the back burner. The Pentagon is like taking full control of U.S.-China policy right now. That's why. Right. And in fact, the latest China report about Xinjiang was produced by this newly minted think tank, and the funny part is I'm trying to find the tweet right now, because all these Xinjiang reports are produced by some of the most shady organizations. We're going to talk about Adrian Zenz, right? So the latest independent Washington D.C. think tank that sponsors the latest Xinjiang report that's making rounds in CNN. So CNN report released Tuesday by the New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy think tank in Washington D.C. So if you Google it, if you find the think tank, it's headed. The founder and president is Ahmed Awani, and his biography is attached. He has served as a member of an advisory board of the U.S. military's Africa Command. This is the guy who founded the think tank that was producing the Xinjiang genocide report, the New Line Institute. And it gets better. Even This is from the New Line Institute website, their own website, Who We Are section. It says, the New Line Institute for Strategy and Policy is a nonpartisan think tank in Washington, D.C., working to enhance U.S. foreign policy. I mean, they don't even lie about this anymore.
No, it's not even hidden. It's not. It is. That's you know, high school level research. Just go on the page about. Okay, follow the links, and there you are. It's all plain to see. It's not a conspiracy. Yeah. Okay. See that. So that's So I suppose you see that in the next few years, in the coming years, that it's the decoupling strategy. That it's going to be attached with sanctions. It's going to be attached with big state level sort of efforts to paint China, the Chinese government, as a villain in this sense, and to then justify whatever policy they see fit in order to execute decoupling.
This is from a section of the U.S. government, right? I mean, I'm not sure if Biden administration have made up their mind yet on what to do with China, because right now, U.S. have so many problems right now. I mean, the domestically that needs fixing. So I mean, Pentagon is itching for the confrontation, because for me it means bigger budget, right? But they just ask a huge budget increase so they can put They even said it, anti-China missiles on the periphery.
Oh, yes, on the island chain. Yes, I've heard about this. Yeah,
mince word. You know, anti-China. They need like $27 billion to put anti-China missiles in a ring around China. That's obviously more important than American healthcare. And right now, so right now we have all these different forces in the United States, right? Kind of fighting. What is going to be shape up to be the U.S. policy on China, and just so happen all these China hawks right now, they're gaining a lot of media attention, a lot of voice in the media. They're giving a lot of voice in the media, and Trump and admin has shifted the Overton window so much to the right on the U.S.-China relationship. Now it's going to be hard for Biden even to kind of backtrack from that, because now he's going to be seen as, you know, weak, right? Like Beijing Biden. That's going to be the 2024 election topic. And I think, but definitely I think that's what's driving a lot of narrative on media. You know, like this kind of let's because there's also kind of freak out among the U.S. elite that, you know, the China's rise seems unstoppable, and if the trend were to continue, that the U.S. hegemony is going to be eclipsed. If you read a lot of the talking heads and commentaries, there's a lot of that underlying anxiety about losing U.S. hegemony is bubbling through, right? I mean, like even some people are supposedly on the left, you know, progressive, like Matt Stover, like Matthew Iglesias, you know, they talk about or Noah Smith. They talk about, okay, we have to fix our housing order, which is good, but we need to put America back together so we can outcompete China. It's like, why does it? It's like, how about just put American housing order? Right? It's like, why is everything about competing for global dominance here? Like, that's so embedded in the American psyche. It's like people don't even question it. Like, that should be an end goal in itself. It's like, how about just providing a better life for American citizens? You know, like, how about just that? Like, you don't have to caveat it with, oh, we provide a better American life for Americans so they can rally behind us better for our war with China. It's like,
exactly.
The second part is not necessary.
Yeah, exactly. The first part's fine, but why? Yes, the motive. Why does that have to be the motive, right? Yeah. Let's rally around and make everyone's life better so that we can beat the Chinese and be number one. Why can't you just give a better life to your people and live peacefully? But all right, Carl, that is I think this has been, I think, our most, actually, without a doubt, our most in-depth interview we've had, most in-depth episode we've had. We've covered a lot of really interesting stuff, and I really think you've given us depth, but not sort of, we haven't been lost in the woods, I would say. I think everything's been related, and all of it's come together actually very well. So I think if you have any final thoughts, anything final you wanted to say actually before we
Yeah,
close.
yeah. So I mean, what U.S. is doing right now is actually not helping the Uyghur people who they're claiming to be helping, because all these sanctions against any business that hire Uyghur laborers is just gonna create the unemployment problem for Uyghur people even worse. Now like all the firms that have maybe export oriented business in China, they will be afraid to hire Uyghurs. If they know that's going to become a liability now, right? This is so. In a way, I mean, I don't think the impact on China itself will be limited, because um, right now at this point, I think China already reached the critical mass. I mean, China's foreign policy had been relatively sensible in the past 40 years, and
Hmm.
and people, even people in the West, can see how China versus the West in terms of handling the COVID crisis. I mean, that
Mm.
really shows the kind of the difference in the governance. So a lot of the um, kind of the hysteria I say about China in the West is also like kind of like the cope is saying, oh, like China is it's bad. We cannot follow the example of China,
Hmm.
because China is a fundamentally bad place.
Mm.
It's like because the only reason China is able to fight COVID because it's authoritarian
Mm.
government, right? Like we cannot adopt that in in here. Here
Right.
we want our freedom to die.
Yes. Yeah, and of course they can't follow the example of the Chinese, because that would be proving that they are at least able to govern in some capacity. Yeah, it would be a egg on the face or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Well, thank you, Carl. I think it's been a journey. You've taken us from the jungles of Yunnan and border crossings in Turkey and Syria, and we've taken us through the Civil War and the 1760s and Khanates, and it's been really fascinating. Thank you, Carl, for coming to speak to us. And I think we'll definitely have you on another point to discuss something else in as much depth as you are very able to.
I
Thank
would
you.
love to. I love to talk in case you haven't noticed. So anytime.
Brilliant. Thank you.